there are multiple reports now of social order basically collapsing at this point as the population faces starvation, which has become endemic, especially in northern Gaza. So even the aid that is coming in is oftentimes getting looted. The drivers of the aid convoys are being attacked. Let's take a look at a CNN report on what is happening there.
Gaza's food problem writ large. Hunger trumping fear of Israeli bullets. News of a coming aid convoy carrying flour into the north of Gaza, converging crowds to plunder it. We came here and the Israelis started opening fire on us, and we hid between the buildings, Hamza Nar says. When the fire stops, we come out again and wait for the flour. The IDF say they will look into this incident, but say they can't rule out Hamas shooting. Desperation leading to looting, a growing problem in northern Gaza.
We're talking tens and tens of thousands for, 5-10 trucks. It's the food that he's getting through is just a drop in the ocean. It's not nearly enough.
Theft so bad, the principal UN food supplier, the WFP, declaring Tuesday it will stop deliveries to the north, compounding the already dire conditions. 15% of children under 2 have malnutrition.
It's now at an emergency level. According to international standards, once you're over 15% for acute malnutrition, that's a nutritional crisis and an emergency.
Even before the World Food Programme cancelled food deliveries, children venting fears shared by adults, abandonment by the world.
No food, no water, no medicine. Our message to the world, shame on you. How dare you food your children while we eat animal food? Are you waiting our death?
So devastating report there. And I believe it was in this report as well where they interviewed a doctor who said actually the #1 condition that they are now treating at hospitals is malnutrition. That's where we are. CNN also caught Israel firing on an aid convoy. That's something that the New York Times has reported on as well. Let's put this up on the screen. They said in one case in early February, the UN accused the Israeli Navy of shelling an aid convoy heading up Gaza's coastal road toward Gaza City. The Israeli military said it was looking into the claim. The headline here, though, is attackers hurling stones, a cement block, and an axe at the aid convoy trucks. Just absolute desperation taking hold here as, Palestinians loot these aid convoys and social order breaks down. Let me read you a little bit of what they said. They said such attacks have become common since Israel's invasion last year as desperate civilians face starvation in pockets of the enclave. According to the officials who spoke on condition of anonymity in one recent attack, assailants threw an axe at a driver's cabin attempting to break in, while another, the attackers hurled a cement block, according to an official. Israel blames much of the theft on Hamas, which it accuses of siphoning off supplies for its own forces. There is no evidence of that, however, but the Western officials said the attacks appear to be mostly organized by groups of Gazans who are unaffiliated with Hamas or were the spontaneous acts of desperate civilians. Hamas officials are barely present on the ground in any part of Gaza, the official said, and international aid organizations are no longer coordinating their movements with that group until October controlled the entirety of the territory. And obviously, Saagar, the core problem here is lack of food, lack of water, lack of any sort of basic supplies, people absolutely desperate, and, chaos ensuing. But attendant to that problem as well is law enforcement. I mean, Hamas ran the Gaza Strip, and so law enforcement was definitionally, affiliated with Hamas, as, they always say the health ministry run by Hamas, et cetera. Law enforcement was the same. Well, law enforcement is not going to come out and guard these aid convoys for fear of being targeted as quote unquote Hamas by Israeli forces who already are being caught firing on these aid convoys. So that further leads to, an escalation of chaos, looting, and breakdown of social order.
Yeah, it's really bad. I mean, it's one of those things that we saw a lot in Iraq. And one of the reasons why you want to be very fearful of this is that it means that anybody can step into the vacuum. One of the ways, actually, that the Taliban rose to power in Afghanistan in the late 90s is that you take a very chaotic situation, you restore some semblance of order, people are willing to put up with it, it, even if it means their kids can't go to school or their wives, basically become imprisoned in their house.
It's part of Hamas's rise.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. But this my point is just that this we could see a lot worse than Hamas. We may actually see what if Palestinian Islamic Jihad or something even more radical comes in and they start shooting all the criminals. That can actually, in a situation like this, that's very popular, and that's exactly how they can roll up defenses. And then especially with the way that the Israeli campaign, if you combine that with some counterinsurgency effort, you're looking at a years-long issue that there is right there. So the security vacuum is not just obviously it's a humanitarian disaster, but it's one of those where we saw it in Somalia, we saw it in Iraq, we saw it in Afghanistan. When you have a vacuum like that, it will lead to more military conflict in the future.
Yeah.
That's why you don't want it to happen. You want to prevent it.
There are already estimates, I think, put together by Johns Hopkins group, I believe, that show that the deaths from starvation and disease could very rapidly outpace those from the bombing and the bullets. And when you look at the numbers in terms of, and the percentages in terms of famine and starvation and children facing severe wasting and malnutrition, we are really on the cusp of that. And the fact that, the incursion, the imminent invasion of Rafah, remember, Rafah is where the aid convoys are predominantly coming through. So when you already have a population that is literally starving to death, and then you're talking about further attacking the area where the aid is even coming in. I mean, it really is, I can't even say it's a disaster. It's already a disaster, and it's impossible to imagine just how much worse things could continue to get. Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.